Have you ever witnessed a moment so raw and genuine that it stops the world? A moment where a legendary champion, a woman the world saw as unbreakable, was brought to her knees by a message of profound humility and hope? We're about to take you back to that exact moment. An interview that wasn't just an interview, but history in the making. If this story touches your heart, don't just leave quietly. Hit that like button, subscribe to stay tuned for the rest of the journey, and share your thoughts in the comments about what you think is coming next. Because together, we can keep the flame of this incredible story alive. The studio lights were bright, a constellation of artificial suns illuminating the set. The air hummed with an electric energy, an audience buzzing with anticipation. Seated comfortably in a plush armchair, dressed in a vibrant red blazer, was Serena Williams. She was the picture of poise and grace, a titan of the sport now in a new chapter of her life. The conversation was exactly what one would expect from a post-retirement interview. Light, cheerful, and full of pleasantries about family, future projects, and reflections on her historic career. Everything was going smoothly, filled with polite laughter and nostalgic anecdotes, until the host paused. He leaned forward, listening intently to an earpiece, a curious smile spreading across his face as he processed what was being relayed to him. The audience, sensing a change in the script, hushed slightly. Serena, still smiling warmly, blinked a little. "We have a special surprise guest," the host announced, his voice laced with an undeniable excitement, "who wanted to send you a message." The big screen behind her, which had been displaying a montage of her greatest triumphs, flickered to a stop. For a long, tense moment, it was blank. Then suddenly, the face of a man appeared, President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. The surprise was palpable. Serena blinked in shock, her body language shifting from relaxed to ramrod straight. A collective gasp rippled through the audience. This was not in the script, not at all. Traoré, looking calm and composed, greeted her warmly. "Madame Serena," he began, his voice carrying an unwavering gravitas, "you may not know me personally, but your story has reached my heart and the hearts of my people." The room, which moments ago had been filled with a celebratory buzz, felt completely silent. The excitement and chatter melted away, replaced by an intense, almost breathless curiosity. Serena smiled politely, a nervous gesture as she tried to process the surreal moment, not yet realizing how deeply his words would cut into her soul. Her eyes widened, a flicker of true vulnerability crossing her face for the very first time, as Traoré continued softly, "Today, I wish to speak not to the champion the world knows, but to the woman who carried the weight of dreams." Something in his tone, a gentle yet firm resonance, told Serena that this was about to get very real. The host, sensing the immense gravity of the moment, leaned back in his chair, ceding the stage entirely to the man on the screen. The crowd, usually a lively, clapping throng, was now completely still, a hushed reverence filling the space. Traoré's voice was calm, but it was filled with an emotion that transcended the screen, a sincerity that seemed to bypass Serena's polite smile and pierce directly into her soul. "Serena," he continued, his tone unwavering, "I come from a land where young girls watch you play on old television sets, sometimes in crowded rooms with only one working antenna. They see you, a woman who looks like them, holding trophies the world said she could never hold. And in that moment, they believe." Serena's lips trembled. She glanced down briefly, blinking rapidly, desperately trying to keep the tears from spilling over. She was a champion of composure, but this was a surprise of a different magnitude. This wasn't about tennis. It was about the profound, unmeasured impact of her life. Traoré continued, his voice dropping to a low, powerful tone.
I wanted you to know that when you fought on the court, you were not fighting for titles alone. You were carrying millions who had never been given permission to dream." The audience sat frozen, a tableau of shared emotion. Many were already wiping tears from their own eyes. It was a truth so powerful, so raw, that it was impossible to ignore. Serena finally raised her hand to her face, her chest rising and falling heavily as she struggled to breathe. The host whispered, almost in disbelief, This is powerful." The effortless smile that Serena had worn moments before was now gone, replaced by a deep and overwhelming emotion. Her eyes were filled with tears she could no longer fight. As the studio lights dimmed slightly to focus on the screen, Traoré leaned forward, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "But what I admire most is not the trophies. It is that you never gave up, even when the world tried to break you. That is leadership. That is strength." The words pierced Serena's heart like a physical blow. She pressed her fingers against her lips, a futile attempt to compose herself. A single tear rolled down her cheek, and then another. The camera zoomed in, capturing the raw, beautiful vulnerability of a woman the world had always seen as an unshakable force. In that moment, she was not just a champion, she was a human being, touched to her very core by the weight of the dream she had carried without ever knowing.
The world, as a whole, erupted. While Serena was still processing the weight of the moment in the quiet of the studio, the internet had already exploded with her tears and Traoré's words. Within minutes, clips of the interview went viral. Hashtags like Cries Serena and Traoré and Hope began trending worldwide, igniting conversations in every corner of the globe. On social media, users wrote about how they had never seen anything so raw and real, and millions shared short reels of Serena whispering, "I promise I will come," many admitting they were in tears watching it. But while the internet buzzed with a frenzied digital applause, Serena sat quietly in her hotel room, replaying the moment in her head. She whispered to her sister Venus, "I've won championships, but nothing ever touched me like this. It felt like God spoke through him." In that quiet moment, the public spectacle faded, and the profound personal truth of the event took hold. The next morning, Serena's phone buzzed nonstop with calls from friends, celebrities, and even former rivals, all wanting to share how much the interview had touched them. But the call that would truly break her heart came from a small village in Burkina Faso, arranged by the TV station. Awa, a little girl with a shy but steady voice, was on the line. "Miss Serena," she said, her voice filled with a timid awe, "I saw you cry. I want to be like you. My racket is only wood, but I play every day." Serena's eyes filled instantly with fresh tears. The truth of Traoré's words was now a fragile, trembling voice on the other end of the phone. She pressed the phone to her chest for a moment, her own voice trembling as she replied, "Awa, you keep playing, and I promise you I'll come and meet you." A small sob of joy came through the line. "Thank you, thank you." As the call ended, Serena collapsed into tears, realizing this was no longer about her career, but about hope planted in the hearts of children she had never met. That evening, Serena and President Traoré had a private video call, away from the cameras and the reporters. Serena appeared with tired eyes but a warm smile. "Mr. President, I don't know how to thank you. You made me realize my journey was never just mine." Traoré leaned closer to the camera, his expression calm yet firm. "Serena, the trophies will one day gather dust, but the hope you placed in the hearts of millions will never fade. That is your true legacy." Her lips trembled again. "Do you know what people are saying online? They're calling you the most genuine leader they've ever seen." He smiled faintly.
Let them not remember me, but the dreams of Awa and every child like her. That is all I ask." Serena nodded, tears streaming once more. "Then let's make it happen. Let's make their dreams real." The call ended with both of them wiping their eyes in silence, a new shared purpose taking hold.
The world held its breath. News of a potential visit from the tennis legend to the West African nation had leaked to the press, and the internet exploded yet again. This was no longer just a trending hashtag or a viral clip. It was a global anticipation for a moment that felt like a miracle. News stations ran countdowns to Serena's rumored trip. Social media was flooded with emotional posts from children across Africa, holding up handmade tennis rackets and smiling shyly into cameras with captions like, "Waiting for you, Serena." People didn't just want an event. They were begging for a symbol of hope to become real. In the quiet of her home, far from the media frenzy, Serena prepared. She packed not just clothes for her journey, but dozens of brand-new rackets and countless tennis balls. She carefully sorted through boxes, finding a special wooden racket a fan had sent her years ago. A simple, rustic piece of wood, crudely shaped like a tennis racket. This fan, she now realized, had been an earlier Awa, a child in an unseen corner of the world who had believed in her. Holding the wooden racket, she felt an overwhelming sense of connection and purpose. This wasn't a trip, it was a calling. She told her sister Venus, "I used to think winning a Grand Slam was the greatest honor. Now I know the greatest honor is to show up for the people who believe in you." Meanwhile, President Traoré addressed a small private gathering in his office. He was firm, his voice devoid of political artifice. "If she comes, it must not be about politics. It must be about the children," he said. "Let her see the hope she has planted." He understood that the true power of this moment was not in international diplomacy or celebrity, but in the simple, profound act of two people honoring a promise. As the plane tickets were finally confirmed, Serena sat alone on her bed. She held the wooden racket, a tangible link to a world she had only just discovered. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but this time it was not one of sadness or overwhelm. It was a tear of gratitude and resolution. "I'm coming, Awa," she whispered softly to herself, her voice full of a new, certain strength. "I'm coming." And as she prepared to board a plane that would carry her to a new continent, a new purpose, and a new understanding of her own legacy, the world watched, waiting for the beginning of something bigger than anyone had ever imagined. The sun was a warm, golden haze over the horizon when Serena's plane touched down in Ouagadougou. The crowds had gathered at the airport, a sea of waving flags and hopeful faces. They held signs that read, "Welcome, Serena," and "Our dreams live because of you." As she stepped off the plane, tears filled her eyes. Children lined the pathway, many clutching handmade rackets carved from wood, their smiles wide and their eyes full of awe. President Ibrahim Traoré was waiting, not with a formal procession, but with his signature calm smile. He extended a hand, but instead of a formal shake, Serena embraced him tightly, unable to hold back her emotion. "Thank you for bringing me here," she whispered. Traoré nodded softly. "No, Serena. Thank you for coming." The crowd erupted in cheers, cameras flashing, but for Serena, it wasn't about the spectacle. Her focus was on a little girl in the front row, holding a racket almost as big as her body, her eyes shining with an unwavering hope. Serena knew at once it was Awa. Later that evening, in a small community center, Serena finally met her. The little girl wore a simple white dress and held her wooden racket proudly. Serena knelt down, tears blurring her vision. "Awa, is that you?" she whispered. Awa nodded, her tiny voice trembling. Yes, Miss Serena. Pulling her into a tight embrace, Serena sobbed softly. The entire room fell silent, many people wiping their own tears. Traoré stood quietly in the background, watching the moment unfold with deep emotion. I brought you something, Serena said, reaching into her bag. She handed Ahwa a brand new tennis racket, shining in the dim light. Ahwa gasped, holding it like a treasure. Now you'll play with this, and one day I'll sit in the stands and watch you win, Serena whispered. The following day, at a massive gathering in Ouagadougou's main square, Serena, holding Ahwa's hand, stepped up to the microphone. I came here thinking I was retired, but now I know. My journey has just begun, because this isn't about me. It's about every little girl who dares to dream. The crowd roared with emotion. Then Traoré took the microphone, his voice steady and full of warmth. The world saw Serena cry, but today we see her stand, and in her strength, our children see their future. Serena squeezed Ahwa's hand. On her final day, thousands gathered at the airport, singing and waving goodbye. Ahwa clung to her hand. Serena knelt, her tears falling freely. Ahwa, remember what I told you. Keep playing, and when you win your first championship, I'll be there. Ahwa nodded, her small voice firm. I promise, Miss Serena. As she boarded the plane, Serena looked out the window, her heart full. This was not the end, but the beginning of something far greater. And now, dear viewers, if this story touched your heart, if it made you cry, smile, or believe in hope again, don't just leave quietly. Hit like, tap subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what part moved you the most, because together, just like Serena and Traoré, we can keep the flame of hope alive.